If you want to get a good deal on a piece of real estate anywhere south of downtown Miami, then you're gonna want to check out this video because we're going into some granular detail on 3 of the most prominent neighborhoods in the area. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, your Miami real estate agent, and all my contact info's in the description down below if you guys would like to reach out. So in this video, we're looking at Coconut Grove, South Miami, and Coral Gables. We're looking at closed price to original price ratio to see, are people even paying full price for listings in these areas? We're looking at supply, we're looking at median sale price, everything you guys need to know in order to make the most informed real estate decision for you and your family. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about it. We're gonna kind of rapid fire through some of these graphs here because there's a lot of data to discuss, guys. So like I said, we're looking at these 3 different cities. We're gonna start with Coconut Grove. Now, in all of these, we're looking at condos and single family homes together to get a bit of a macroscopic understanding of the market. But of course, if you guys wanna reach out to me and work with me, we can go into all the granular details that you would like. So right here, we're looking at January 2020 to October 2022. We're looking at median sale price to closed price to original price ratio. Real quick, closed price to original price ratio is if it was originally listed for $1 million and it ended up selling for $900,000, that's 90% closed price to original price ratio, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. And as you guys can see, this graph is all over the place. So what I'm doing is we're looking at graphs, then we're gonna look at the data that represents what you're seeing on the graph. But what we do see is that we've had a big drop recently in that closed price to original price ratio as the market has slowed down. And we've also seen an increase in the median sale price, but it's not necessarily super statistically significant because we're only calculating it from 340 listings. The Grove is a very tight market, okay? So here's the data that corresponds with that, and I'll move myself there. You can see what I mean about the median sale prices all over the place. This is more just a reference. What we care about is this, okay? The closed price to original price ratio. And what we can see is that, you know, it was kind of floating here, right, or just under that 100%, right at the top of the market, which if you've been watching my channel, you know that was in May for Miami-Dade. Now, since May, you know, we've basically seen a trickling downwards. You know, August was a little bit of an outlier there, but, you know, we've started to see that people are starting to get deals on properties in Coconut Grove. So, for example, in October, this past month, the closed price to original price ratio was 87.8%, okay? So, I mean, that's, you know, 12.2% less than what the list prices were. So, pretty interesting stuff. Also in Coconut Grove here, let's look at number of new listings and active listings. So, as you guys can see, you know, this is pre-pandemic here as far as the number of active listings. Another way to say that is supply. Now, what happened once the pandemic hit? Really, it started to happen before the pandemic hit. You know, there was a decrease in listings. Then the pandemic hit and things just absolutely continued to crater into the center of the earth like Brendan Fraser in that movie. And then what we've had since, you know, about the middle of this year is we've had a stockpiling of inventory, right? So as you guys can see there, right here, boom. Okay, July was a bit of a peak in inventory, and then since then we've seen it tapering off again because look how few new listings are coming onto the market, okay? Let's check out the data for that. Dang, y'all seeing what I seeing? Single digit new listings for the last 3 months, okay? We had some single digits, you know, sparsely thrown in there, right? But out of the 11 months that are shown here, you know, that's 7 of the months have single digits, right? So this whole past year or so has been very, very slim pickings as far as new listings, and the number of active listings has stayed relatively stable, but looks like we're on a downward trajectory, like I said, since July, all right? So that's what's going on in Coconut Grove. Let's take a look at South Miami here. So South Miami, Similar situation happening with our close price to original price ratio being a big old drops, since the middle of the year, basically. And, we've also seen that median sale price took a big drop. Boom. And then, starting to rebound, right? And this is a little more statistically significant because we're talking about 660 listings, okay? So about double the amount. But let's look at the data for that since these graphs look crazy. Now, what we're seeing here is a pretty significant close price to original price ratio difference. Not as much of a difference as we saw in Coconut Grove, but, pretty big difference there, 92.3, even compared to the month before at 97.1. And then back here in the peak of the market, we were, 101.5, 100, 101.4. We were floating above 100%, right? And then since that June point, we've seen it slowly tapering off. September was a little bit of an outlier there. But again, we're looking at condos and single family homes. When you see that the median sale price there is so low comparatively, it just basically means that a lot more condos sold that month than single family homes because, condos are generally cheaper. Now, what we're seeing on the next graph here is, again, we're looking at supply, so new listings and active supply. So not as much of a disaster in terms of new listings in South Miami. It's actually been somewhat stable, compared to, pre-pandemic and so forth. A little bit more erratic during the pandemic times, but I mean, hey, what are you going to do? It's a global pandemic, Now, again, we have seen a bit of a tapering off in number of new listings in the last few months. This is largely due to interest rates being higher because if you own your home and you're paying 3, 4, even 5% interest, and then you sell, well, when you go to buy again, because everybody, you need somewhere to live, you're going to be paying today's interest rates, which are going to be much higher, closer to around 7%. So, pretty significant. What's interesting about this is that the actual supply is a bit more encouraging, shall we say, than in Coconut Grove, right? We see a bit more of a pop-up there. And if we go back here to Coconut Grove, boom, we see a bit more of a downtrend there than here, okay? And, so that's kind of, hopefully, that keeps up because we need more supply. We need to get back to these levels of supply in order to see any substantial price changes, okay? So just keep that in mind, guys. Supply and demand 101, I mean, this is just how this stuff goes. I mean, Econ 101, right? Now, same graph we just looked at, but in data form, and what we can see, number of new listings, certainly since that May period, they were kind of stable, and then it looks like the new listings are decreasing a bit lately, but total active number of listings is pretty stable as well. So South Miami market, I would say probably a little bit healthier and more stable than the Coconut Grove market, where, there's just so few listings that, one or two listings can really sway things a bit on the charts at least. Now, let's look at this next graph here. We're looking at Coral Gables, okay? So median sale price, we can see it's been more or less stable over the last year, kind of bouncing around back and forth. It hasn't been a crazy upward trajectory, right? So things are stabling out, so that's good. Close price to original price ratio, we were popping off over 100%, and then now we're back down, getting into more reasonable territory there at 93.6%, okay? And let me shift myself there. So, again, median sale price, we don't care too much about that. It's just a reference for where we're at, and where there are more condos, more single family homes, what's the median, right? But what we do care about, close price to original price ratio here, again, since May, peak of the market, right there, 101.1, and it sounds like a radio station, right? We had, look at that, 5 months in a row at 100% or greater close price to original price ratio. And then after July, we see the last few months, it's been tapering off and into more reasonable territories there, okay? So Coral Gables, again, I like this graph because you got active number of listings. Our supply is on an upward trend, okay? That's what we want to see, people. That's what we want to see. We want to get back into this area here, supply wise, that we were at pre-pandemic, in order to see substantial price corrections. Because if we have that much of an increase in supply at the same time that rates are high, and there's less buyers, right? So if there's less demand than there was before, but now all of a sudden supply goes up, right? Well, what happens when you have high supply and low demand? What happens to prices? Yeah, they go down, right? So that's what we really, really need. I also like this graph because we see number of new listings here. It's been somewhat stable. It's on a bit of a downward trend, as you can see, but things are less erratic. They're more stable. And, we're calculating this from 6,200 listings, okay? Because Coral Gables is a very big area. So this is, definitely a more stable market overall. And in the data itself, the data is we can draw more rock solid conclusions from it because we have a bigger population of data to pull from. So I like this graph. Now let's go here and check out the data real quick. What do we see? Last 4 months, double digits in terms of new listings, versus the 5 months previous had triple digits. 3 months before that we had double digits, right? So it's kind of back and forth. Or we're kind of right in the low hundreds, upper 80s and 90s as far as new listings. And then as far as active number of listings, you can see going from the low threes, upper twos, getting down into the upper ones, right? Now low to mid twos. Right now we're getting back up into that upper twos and low threes, right? So that's a really good sign, guys, and I'm encouraged by that. I think you guys should be encouraged by that. I might have been covering the graph there, so I'll show you guys that slope where it was coming off from. But what does this mean if you're a buyer? What does it mean if you're a seller or an investor? If you're a buyer and you're looking in these areas, keep in mind that you can potentially get a discount on some of these homes. I've been seeing a lot more homes in these areas that are sitting for 60, 90, 100 plus days. And, sellers usually need to sell. That's why the house is on the market. Some people are testing the market, of course, but a lot of times they do need to sell and they're willing to make a deal. So don't think that it's a year ago or 2 years ago where there was going to be 15, offers over list price and competing offers and price wars and all these things. That's not what's happening right now. So bear that in mind. In these areas, Coconut Grove, about 12% list price, closed price to original price ratio, about 8% the Gables or so. So factor in, you could maybe consider about a 10% discount depending on if the house is priced properly. That's where your skilled realtor comes in. If the house is priced at market value, then you're probably not going to get a 10% discount, but just keep in mind that discounts are out there, okay? It's all about what is the house priced at and if that price is close to what the actual market value is, okay? And you really need a professional to figure out what that market value is, unless you used to be a professional realtor and you're not anymore. Work with a professional realtor, because Zillow's estimates are wrong, okay? Look up the Zillow CEO's house sold for like over $1 million less than what the Zestimate was. So Zestimates are not worth anything, okay? Now, they're kind of like a broad general idea, but certainly not something that you make a decision based off of, okay? Now, what does this mean if you're a seller? Well, clearly, you missed the top of the market back in May. It's not the end of the world, though, because there are still a lot of qualified buyers out there looking for homes. And what's really, 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 really important is that you maximize the first 2 weeks on the market, okay? That's when the most eyeballs are going to be on your home. People who are actively looking, they're going to probably come in those first 2 weeks. And if you have to do price reductions later, then it's a lot harder to get people to come back and look at something later on that they've already seen, okay? So keep that in mind. Again, it's very important to work with somebody, with a professional realtor who knows how to price and market your house properly, okay? That is me, okay? So if you guys are looking for a fantastic listing agent or buyer's agent, reach out to me. All my contact info is in the description down below. Now, investors, what does it mean? You can sort of insulate your investment in a sense, because you know that, hey, look, if this recession gets bad, I just heard that they just dropped a bomb on Poland and World War III might be about to happen. Good Lord. So, if the whole world goes to crap, these are good areas to invest in my opinion, because they're some of the most stable neighborhoods in Miami. Now, that being said, similar advice to the buyers. Keep in mind, discounts are happening, okay? So even though you got your war chest ready and you're waiting for the bottom of the market, we might not be at the bottom of the market now, but that doesn't mean that you can't get a good deal on a property that will leave a lot of meat on the bones, okay? We call that a wedge deal, all right? So if you're out there looking for wedge deals, let me know. I can help you out, all right? So that's pretty much all I had for you guys on this video. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. What neighborhoods do you want to see next? And I'll bring it to you. Jake Fletcher here with the Fletcher Group at eXp Realty, your Miami real estate agent. And again, guys, all my contact info is in the description down below if you want to reach out. And if you enjoyed this video, consider sharing it with anybody who might get some value out of it. And definitely consider smashing the like button, hitting subscribe, and ringing the notification bell so you don't miss videos like this in the future. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.